as well as increase the health of all of them for the residents themselves. The baking document piece then is one that I'm preparing, finishing today. It's a proposal to amend the current vacant registration program that Crafton currently has to include an annual fee. I've suggested an escalating annual fee. I will send that around once I'm finished. I just was looking at it here. Crafton is unusual in that it has a vacant registration program, but it does not have an attached annual fee at all. Many other boroughs, there's about 98 in Pennsylvania, almost all of them have an annual fee. That annual fee is both to cover the cost of administering the program as well as any maintenance the borough may need to take on to ensure that the property is maintained if that's the responsibility the borough wants to take on instead of getting the property owner to do so. It's also an economic incentive for the property owner in an escalating format. Every year it might go up from 150 to next year's 300 annual fee, then 500 to help incentivize the property owner to either sell, rehab, or demolish the property. I'll have more examples of that, and I can take more questions if you have any regarding that.
I'd like to add to the vacant registry. When we talked with Carnegie about their vacant registry, the point again was to not hurt the landowners or anyone who participates in the vacant property. It's more so to keep it nice in appearance, which would be attractive to anyone who comes in looking for vacant properties to rent or rehabilitate or to own business in.
The last thing I'll say is we've worked with Gateway to get the last permissions for the mapping software, so now we're bringing the different layers that we can create. So if there's anything that you want to see visually in Crafton, if you wanted to see utility information, transit stop orientations, we got the zoning layers. So if you have an issue that you think a map might serve those purposes, let us know and we'll see what we can do. The purposes of this information is both for internal analysis for the council and for the borough, but also then we can communicate that information to the residents. So if there's a map that you really think this would be great for the residents to see, sometimes zoning maps can do that in order to help residents understand the borough, understand the trajectory and the vision of the borough. That's something that we can talk about too.
Sewage maps, stormwater.
So can I ask a question? When we look at, we talk about maps and stuff like that, so we have a lot of residents here. Would this be information that we would put in the GIS that might start giving us patterns?
Yeah,
that we
so
could look at?
one of the things, and Eddie had mentioned that, is we've created a survey form that I know a couple of people have been starting using to take pictures and document possible blighted and vacant properties. We can use that same format to then use for complaints of stormwater to start mapping that in real time. And
Can we
see
put
if
it
there's
on our
any
website?
Yeah,
If
we
you want
can,
to,
we can embed
whoever.
the ARC online map, make it public and embed it on the website.
So, and essentially, they can self-report outside the emergency chain of command.
Yes.
You know, just in order to give us the data to say, you know, there's flooding in place X, and we may never have heard that.
So,
Yes.
so like, you know, we have, the lady from McMahon, but she said that there are a number of other residents that weren't able to be here. So if we, you know, if we can take the information that was given us tonight and work off of that and maybe do some surveying in those areas to find other residents that were affected, so we can get a better picture of, you know, of what we're really dealing with here.
Yeah, that technology can be used in that way.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have a question, going back to what Eddie said though, that turnkey can help out though, but they need authorization. What authorization would they need?
I'm not sure exactly. If you contact Mark Schuster directly, he can tell you turnkey taxes. He told me, if I understand correctly, that Jordan has to give the tax data to council or the manager, whoever is the authority, who then gives it to me, and that's an extra step, whereas Mark is a little bit more proactive and aggressive about acquiring the data as I am, and he just needs authorization from you guys or whoever.
For him to give it to you?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move forward, have an email, and just like everything else you requested, we'll facilitate that.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Residents?
As far as the fees go, what would that fee, like what would you, like what have you seen of like the rental rates registry?
For which program?
For the rental rates?
Registration?
Yeah.
So locally, they can range
Okay.
per unit. Dormont's is $10, Carnegie's is $25. When we talked to the borough manager, Carnegie was originally past 40. But due to when they took public comment, they lowered it to 25. Legally, it must only cover the administrative costs of running the program. There can be no windfall from that. That was challenged
In court. Yep.
in court by Allentown, and I will defer to the solicitor, he knows more about it, but I believe the case was dismissed by the state Supreme Court on appeal, so currently is standing as is.
Yeah, and 5A says, use a solicitor to determine the metrics for fees and schedules recommended.
So as long as it's at a reasonable fee set to cover the administrative costs, you can expand that to include, labor costs and time costs and database management costs.
Covering the cost of time and material.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily suggest going too far in case if they get a little high, but something nominal, just to ensure compliance.
And that same goes for the vacancy.
The vacancy, I would defer to the solicitor slightly more. I haven't found as much challenge to whether it's only administrative costs, though I think that is the going norm, that boroughs kind of take the conservative approach and just kind of cover maintenance costs through that.
You can't use a fee structure to
Yeah.
generate revenue. It's really just there to cover the costs.
Yeah.
Would the costs include the potential demolition of these properties?
Well, I mean, that's not ascertainable at this point. There are other tools in the borough's toolbox to address that, through the filing of liens, et cetera, against the property.
So they would just be used to maintain the vacancy status of them, cut the grass?
Yeah, I mean, without looking at it just about this issue in particular, see if there's anything out there that's different than what the typical municipal rules are, I would be concerned about a process where we're escalating fees. I think you mentioned $150 or $300 a year. That doesn't feel right, but I'm certainly willing to take a look at that.
I would say the research that I've done, so there's 98 municipalities in Pennsylvania. This is from a private mortgage company, so take it with a grain of salt on anything actually done. 64 have a fixed fee schedule that range between $25 to $500 per property. That's an annual fee. There are 15 that have escalating schedules. Many start at 100 or nothing for the first year, and they actually go up to $5,000 per year if it's vacant for 10 years or more. That is very common if you have an escalating. It's 5,000. I was surprised by that myself. I think they're copying Reading and Allentown, the larger cities who have adopted this sort of thing. But that was
That's typically how things go in the
Yeah.
municipal world. It sort of spreads like that, so. In Reading and Allentown is a city, and they have different rules than the borough.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if Reading, I think Reading might be a city as well.
Yeah.
So they have a different set of rules than boroughs do, so they may be permitted to do that.
There are some local boroughs that did have an aggressive escalating schedule, so someone might have challenged them on it.
If it's something council wants to examine, I'm happy to look into it and make a recommendation at that point.
It's great, and it sounds like you're both learning a lot, and we're learning along with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to get good news.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good job.
Moving forward, we have a motion to authorize the solicitor to research abandoned structures in Crafton Boulevard and provide reports by July 9th council meeting.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I see lot numbers. Do we have any addresses?
We don't. There's two that are missing. And off the street, you can't see them, so this is the best we can do in what we got.
They're the ones up, Fred, that are down into the hillside.
Oh,
You know, right where the steps are coming across?
yeah, 16 something. Yeah.
1664 I have is one.
One.
And 1654, and then the middle lot block, I don't have the
I
number.
believe it's
Okay.
36.
All right, I was just wondering where they were. Okay.
I have a comment on houses falling down hillsides. I talked to the city and across the street on some cases where there's vacancy on the city side and vacancy on the Crafton side. We can just simply make recommendations to the city for demolition or whatever we see fit, and they will put it on their queue to
On the
deal
city
with-
side,
On the city side, yep.
so like Baldwick, you
Yep.
mentioned? Okay.
And they're also
There's a
happy
couple on
to
the city
volunteer.
side.
What was that?
I said there are a couple on the city side of Baldwin.
And they're happy to provide a person also to help
And
escort.
possibly down in that hollow
Yep.
down the street from our school.
Exactly, and they're happy to volunteer a person to to enter into the property to identify it for structural damage, which would escalate to demolition.
Good job.
There's a
All in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. A motion to direct the building inspector to evaluate the soundness of the structures and prepare reports by July 9th. Count on.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Are these concerning the same ones of the previous motion?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Direct the building inspector, a motion to direct the building inspector to inspect 96 Noble Avenue structure to determine its soundness.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Motion to authorize the borough to obtain an appraiser to determine the value of 96 Noble Avenue and the appraiser be selected by the president of council and the solicitor.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, why are we doing that?
We need to have a path forward. You know, we have a couple paths, or we could go to tax sale and have somebody else acquire the property. The borough could pay fair market value to,
So we're getting into the real estate business, or?
Not yet.
not yet,
This is only to find out what the value is.
correct?
Just for everybody's edification, there are appraisers out there that will give you an unwritten estimate of valuation, not something that you couldn't use during an eminent domain proceeding, but at least it would give Borough Council an idea as to what type of numbers we are talking about to acquire the property. So my sense is that working with Mr. Lavasser, we'll try to identify an appraiser or two that will provide that type of quick information that we can discuss at a future meeting. And if the decision to move forward with a eminent domain proceeding, then we would be engaging that same individual to present a report that would be part of any legal proceeding if a declaration of taking were to be filed by the borough.
Excuse me, I had eye surgery on Thursday and I have to use eye drops. Any other questions on the motion that's on the floor? All in
So we
favor? Sorry.
Sorry. So there's no expenditure for this appraisal right now?
For the verbal range, no, but if you needed a report, then there would be an expense. Typically, there are, I don't want to necessarily pigeonhole, I'd say $2,000 or less for an appraisal report that you could use at a court proceeding. And that's not what we're asking. I don't think that's what we're asking for here.
No.
But you're asking for council to approve the two of you appointing an appraiser, as opposed to bringing that appraiser in and having, council approve.
Let me put it this way, Fred, would you and the solicitor like to appoint the appraiser?
No, I would like all of council to be aware
Okay.
of who's being appointed or whatever.
Okay.
And when you start talking about eminent domain, I'm gonna be a negative on that, because this borough went through some very, very serious stuff with eminent domain before. It cost
Correct.
us $1.2 million, and you'll hear that from
I
me
totally
from
agree
now.
with you.
So you agree?
I totally agree with you.
Dangerous area to start to move.
I would hope the borough has learned some very important lessons, and that's why we're taking the guidance of the solicitor, and we're trying to figure out what options there are, and maybe there's an option where the current owners are provided some type of value, because right now, it's a negative for them, and it's a negative for the entire community, and it's been ongoing for 20 years. So we have to think out the current box.
I'd like to quote this.
Yes?
We just got done hearing stories from our community about kicking the can down the road-ism. So if this isn't part and parcel of that mentality, just a visual reminder of it, every time you drive down Noble, I don't know what is. So I understand eminent domain is pretty scary, and I also understand that opening that Pandora's box, we have to be very careful about not going down somewhere we can't follow. But, you know, starting to figure out how to think out of the box is correct, and how are we gonna attack these problems? Because I don't think anybody that's sitting there now is interested in us simply not doing it because it might be too difficult to do. So eminent domain might be an option that we take it, we do it. You know, tax sale is one, but we can't start these,
Or offering fair market value.
we're offering fair market value, but we'll never be able to start any of this without authorizing an appraiser to take a look at it and see what it's worth.
And to my knowledge, previous councils have not taken that action. So it's time that we take a look. And if we find that there's nothing there, then we go back to the drawing board. All right, so all in favor,
Aye.
I,
all that opposed,
No.
please mark for the record the no vote. Motion carries, thank you. All right. Make sure we're- Yeah, I know. Motion to authorize the solicitor to review vacant property ordinances and prepare and recommend an ordinance for the borough by July 9th council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this tagging along though to what the insurance is?
That's correct. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
All that opposed? Motion carries. Under finance, a motion to authorize the real estate refunds as submitted by Jordan Tax for 2017. An amount of $1,450.90 from the general fund, that's real estate, and we have $490.65 from the road tax, for a total of $1,194.41.55.
so moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Moving forward, the personnel. A motion to approve the hiring of Bradley Davis as a swim coach for Crafton Crocodile Summer 2018.
I have a question.
So
Is he the assistant? Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Seconded.
Yes, he's the assistant.
He's the assistant?
Yes,
Okay.
I represent that organization.
Okay.
I'm the vice president.
Okay. I didn't know, is Mike Schneider offer still?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Lynn, who was previously hired as one of our assistant coaches, had something come up and she could no longer coach for us this summer. So Brad is he's been an assistant coach for us in the past, as well as a swimmer. He's a Crafton kid. He is taking over for Lynn.
That's great. That's good. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Moving forward, a motion to approve the hiring of Julia Russos and Patrick Byers as additional seasonal pool staff.
So moved.
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Actually, I'd like to take this moment. Prior to this meeting beginning, we had an executive session on personnel. Make sure that was there for the record. Moving forward with a Crafton Civil Service.
My motion.
Did we,
Pardon?
My motion.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
The Borough Manager Search Committee, though, is moved to request council to approve request for funding to complete testing for the Borough Manager Search at an amount not to exceed $3,000.
so moved.
Seconded. So this is for the borough manager search?
Correct.
And this is just competency?
Competency testing is correct.
Any other questions? Moving forward to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Rosario. And thank you, Ms. Glasser, and thank you, Ms. Perry. Now moving forward forward the Crafton Civil Service Commission, a motion to accept the 2018 Police Department eligibility list as presented by the Crafton Civil Service Commission.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, moving forward to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to planning and zoning, a resolution 2018-07, a definition of a adult-oriented business. This is the resolution permitting the proposed tattoo parlor to move forward with their plans.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Okay, so, this is for adopting the,
Resolution that was drafted by the solicitor.
right, and that resolution says that we intend to look into changing. We aren't actually changing at this meeting, is that correct?
That's correct. This resolution will authorize me to advertise in the newspaper, and once that advertisement hits by the end of this week, under the pending ordinance doctrine, the tattoo parlor can apply to the borough for a zoning permit, and it would be analyzed under the rubric in the draft ordinance, which amends the definitions of adult-oriented business to create two categories of tattoo and body piercing establishments, ones that are adult-oriented and ones that are not adult-oriented. And the difference is related to whether or not there's tattooing or body piercing on what is defined as specified anatomical areas, which is defined to include the genitalia and breast areas on women. And it also addresses the parking issue. So there, although I did explain at last meeting that there's a significant parking issue, that has been addressed, so that you may still need parking from adjacent property, but not at 1 per 30 square feet of commercial space. It also maintains adult-oriented businesses are only permitted in the industrial zone in the borough, and that any such adult-oriented use will remain a conditional use as it is currently.
And does that, the resolution though, when it comes to somebody else wanting another tattoo parlor that happens to do the sensitive areas, they have to go into the industrial section?
They will only be permitted in the industrial area. The ordinance will be, proposed ordinance will be on the agenda for planning commission tomorrow evening. It will be discussed along with the other proposed ordinance, which removes the commercial uses from the residential districts of the borough. And so if this passes tonight, by the end of the week, Mr. Plummer will be able to come to the borough and have Mr. Felt process his zoning permit application.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries.
Good luck.
Moving forward to public safety. A motion to authorize Public Works to install speed limit signs throughout the borough in coordination with the police department.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is gonna sound dumb, but do we not have speed limit signs in our town?
Do you see many?
There's a
No.
few.
I don't, I hate to say I don't speed, but I don't really notice them, no.
There's a few on the back road though, when you come off of Steuben, the back way though. There's some 15-mile-an-hour signs there. And there's a 30-mile-an-hour sign though on Crafton Boulevard, or 25 Main. And I think that might be it.
No, on Crennel Avenue,
I don't know, sorry.
there is some, there's,
So,
There's a few.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. A motion to request the fire chief of Crafton Volunteer Fire Department to provide council with an updated organizational chart for the Crafton Volunteer Fire Department detailing the chain of command.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. A motion to request the chief of the Borough of Crafton Police Department to provide council with an updated organizational chart for the Borough of Crafton Police Department and detailing chain of command.
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to Public Works. As recommended by the engineer, to proceed with final plans for option 2 for Clearview Avenue Reconstruction Stormwater Management Project Phase 5, the final phase, and to authorize the engineer to advertise for bids.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
So, this is a motion to finish the plans and to get bids.
Correct.
It is not actually to do it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Motion to direct Public Works Director to provide council with an updated organizational chart for Public Works Department detailing chain of command.
Skipped a motion.
That's okay, we can go with it.
Okay.
So, second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, my eyes skipped. Motion to authorize Gateway Engineers to advertise for the demolition of 1508 Borough Avenue.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
So after they advertise, like what's the timeframe then?
I mean, as of right now, my authorization's out to Rob, so we haven't even started doing any of the work yet. I mean, this is just something we received a couple weeks ago. Going on to Rob, so it's gonna be me putting together the plans, putting together the bids, a few months.
What's,
Well,
The plans were approved in the last council meeting.
there isn't any plans in place, there's nothing that's been prepared for. Unless there's something, I'm looking at the wrong project, but the one that I heard
it's up on bar.
from Rob, I got a report from Rob last week, an asbestos report. And he asked us to go ahead and start putting together a package for that, but that's as far as I know.
All right.
So,
Obviously, there's a disconnect here because we've been here thinking that we were on our way.
yeah, I apologize, I mean, I sent the authorization to Ramon last week, we can't get that back yet, so I didn't even have authorization from the manager to do this work.
All right, you're authorized.
After
After the motion, you will be
I'm
authorized.
just following the, protocol,
Yeah.
an authorization, so
All
I
right.
apologize for that.
That's all right. Well, we want to make sure this stuff moves forward,
Can we
so.
amend this motion to include any other additional authorizations that you need as, from this body?
He's not.
So where's my seconder?
Well, whenever the bids come in, you're gonna wanna have a separate vote on the bids.
Right.
No, I mean, so what we're saying is that,
He's gonna do everything up to advertising, and then the bids come in, and then at a future council meeting, you'll vote to award the bid to, who knows?
But, I mean, I guess I'm not understanding, you're saying you have to have the plans drawn before you get the bids?
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get plans, get the specs, get everything put together before bidding. I mean, there's a package, there's contract documents, there's specifications that have to be put together for this, for the contractor to go ahead and do the demolition. That has not been completed.
So timeline for you to come up with the plans.
We can give them a couple weeks, it's not, I mean, it's advertising, getting it out, getting it back.
So, let me put it this way. By July 9th, I like to see that we have those plans in hand, and then by that meeting, by the 26th, that we get some bids back. All right, so as the motion stands on the floor, I think we can still move forward with a vote.
You have to specify that they want those things in the motion. The dates they just described.
Get it for the next, for the July meeting, whatever, so.
Yeah, if you need to be micromanaging a motion, we can do that, but I don't think we need to. All right, so, no further discussion, I'd like to move forward with the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Moving forward to planning, Mr. Rosario and Mr. Kraus and the interns, I guess, Mr. Rosario, you'll talk to the transit-oriented development meeting that we had with the University of Pittsburgh's Connect program and the consulting firm that the
Yes.
program's hired.
Yes, Chris and I met with them over at the bus station, and we went over a lot of the information that they had though concerning Crafton itself, though being prime though for it being transit-oriented development, meaning that if somebody wants to take the bus to Crafton though, there's a lot of stuff for them to do here. They don't just have to pass through Crafton or just park here and leave. There's actually stuff for them to do, so it's to talk about like how we can improve Crafton itself and in general bring more business in though, or and to get more people to just want to come to Crafton and spend their dollars here. That was a big thing though that the whole program is about. After meeting them at the station though, we went then to Carnegie's Borough building where they further discussed what they do and the organization though that they contracted with, and they have meetings set up those for individual boroughs, so that way you can see what kind of plans that we would like to see ourselves. And they'd like to get a lot of involvement though from council members and the residents of each individual boroughs, just make sure what ideas are out there for possible improvements in the area. And Chris, you were there though, if I missed anything though, please go on ahead and say.
Yeah, exactly what it was. The program, the consulting firm is Dover Cole and Associates. They're a national recognized development consulting firm. They will be providing expert assistance throughout the entire process. I believe it's 18 months long. In the first 6 months, it's a lot of planning and development with the individual boroughs. There's 10, I believe, participating.
Yes.
In this general area.
That's correct.
The next 6 months will be facilitation and ongoing assistance. They were talking about maybe doing a developers panel, so they're inviting developers in. Railvolution is coming to Pittsburgh in October. There'll be national developers here, and that'll offer a small room opportunity for the borough to kind of present, hey, this is who we are. What do you think? What works? What doesn't? You know, as an expert, what do you think is good? What do you like? What do you don't? And then the following 6 months of that is ongoing technical assistance. I think it's a great program. Personally, I think it's a great program. There's lots of great partners, and it's free expert advice. So I think it's worthwhile for participation, both from those who are really oriented towards transit-oriented development and those who might give pause and say, hey, let's really see where this is going. Dover specifically asked for both types of stakeholders who might be gung-ho and those who might want to take a step back, so they can gear each plan towards the individual borough.
Yes. And I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to make sure that we are involved in it though, so we can keep improving our borough itself and getting, as Chris mentioned, experts. And it is at no cost to us to do this, just time. It's only cost, really. Well, if anybody wants to be involved in it, let me know, and that way we can.
July 24th.
July 24th, it is the next meeting, that's correct. So it's an all-day meeting though. So.
And to reiterate, from what I heard, we had, people thought we had potential.
Yes, they actually, when they talked to us, though, we were the second to last borough community that they were looking at. Carnegie was the last one. And the CEO, I'm not sure what his name is right now, of that, the consulting firm said though that Crafton appears to be the best situated one for this type of development because the way our roads are laid out, everything kind of focuses and centers to like the roundabout area though, and the borough building itself though, and the bus station. So it's like everything is right here. So it allows everything just to focus in though, so it'll make it a lot easier. And it's a prime location for what they do.
It's exciting.
Thank you. Moving forward to public safety. Just want to have a discussion on the National Incident Management System, also known as NIMS. It's through the Department of Homeland Security, and every community in Allegheny County participates. And I'd just like us to consider having a refresher training and a tabletop exercise. I think last week was eye-opening, as we had other motions to talk about the chain of command and how our organization is structured and poised to respond to emergencies. I think it's important that we come together as council with our department heads, the chief of police, and the mayor and the fire chief, to make sure that we're prepared for any incident of national significance or local significance. And it just would be good that we know how to respond as council. I just wanted to see if anybody have anything to add to that. Is there a right that I move forward with working with county EMA and working with potentially the fire chief to set up a tabletop for us to convene one evening to do some role playing, make sure we understand our role in NIMS.
What do you mean by tabletop?
So let's say we're the community's flooding, all right? Understand roles and responsibilities, understand how we would deploy our assets. If there was a situation where we need to declare a state of emergency for the borough, we know, who to call, who should be making that call. Is it you and I as president, vice president? Is that the mayor's position? Is it the fire chief's position? Is it the police chief's position? Just so we all are up to speed and make sure that we can respond efficiently and effectively and communicate with the county and our with PEMA. So that's all I'm asking, that we do that. All right, so I'm going to do some research. I'm going to work with the chief of police, the mayor, and the fire chief, and the interim manager to put that together for council. All right, moving forward to community announcements. Savvy Citizen. You're seeing the signs going up. More people subscribing. It's our community calendar and events messenger. Actually, the more people that we get tied into this, the better, because we'll be able to also respond or communicate during times of incidents. We also have the Nixle system, and we're trying to see which of these systems should really move forward for the incident management type side of things as well, because both systems can do that. So we obviously don't want to confuse folks where their incident management messaging is coming from. So it's nice that that application has that function as well, but the main focus is to communicate about community events and the borough events. So, moving forward to the Planning Commission meeting, we have a meeting tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. at the council chambers here. Crafton celebrates. Angela did a wonderful job this evening discussing all their efforts. June 30th, we have the parade that begins at 2 p.m. We have festival hours on June 30th through July 1st of 3 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. We have a festival hours on July 2nd through the 3rd from 6 p.m. to 10:30. On July 4th, it goes from 3 p.m. to 10:30, and fireworks will begin at dusk. We also have the Firecracker 5K on July 4th at 8 a.m. It's a run or walk. Registration begins at 7 a.m. Volunteers are needed, so please contact craftoncelebrates@gmail.com. Concerts in the park begin Thursday, July 12th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. West Hills Symphonic Band. Our intern mentioned the 2018 side yard and blighted structure program. They're currently accepting applications through August 31st, 2018. More information can be found at our website, www.crafton.org. Ingram Days, July 21st and July 22nd. It's at Ingram Park. Crafton Ingram Rotary Ribbit and Chicken Fest, Thursday, August 2nd, 2018 at Crafton Park. The administrative offices are closed on Wednesday, July 4th, 2018. As a note, and I say this with heavy heart, homeowners, please consider reviewing your insurance policies. And this is an excerpt. Most homeowners and business insurance policies do not cover sewer backups unless specific sewer backup coverage is added to the policy, according to the Insurance Institute. And there's a URL listed here as www.triple-protect-your-house-from-sewer-backups. So check it out, but easier probably to go to www.triple-i.org and search sewer backups so you can learn more about how that process works.
Can I make a quick statement? After everything that happened, we reviewed our house insurance, which I thought like was the max of everything, and that specific coverage was not on our policy. We were able to add it for about $80 a year.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah.
And again, there are things that the borough is going to be able to do to try to mitigate some of this, but there are some events that are an act of God that are unforeseen that we will not be able to mitigate. So it's important to have the coverage if you're able to acquire it. School district tax collection. Chris Miller, you're the elected tax collector.
Jordan Tax will be here in the community center to collect the taxes from the school district if you're wishing to take advantage of the discount. That's by the 31st of August. They'll be here on Tuesday, August 28th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And they'll be here Friday, August 31st from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Thanks, Chris Miller. And thank you for sitting through the entire meeting. I know you have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
It'll be long. Any additional citizen comments at this time?
I have one more,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
it's totally not related to sewage, I promise.
All right.
Okay, so, sorry, since I'm here, last year, like I said, I also am the vice president for the Crafton Crocodiles. Last year, we had asked informally and spoke to Ann about raising our assistant coaches' fees. And that was just an informal conversation. They've been paid the same amount of money for 30 years. They've been paid $350.
Okay.
They come in, they work every day. Coach Mike makes a little bit more than that, but they are down there at the pool from 9 to 11:30 every morning. I mean, we pay them as well, but and then they're also now at the high school from 6 to 7:30 at night. So 30 years is a long time to make $350 for a whole summer. You know, I mean, it's 6 weeks, but they're down there every day, pouring their heart into our kids. And we had asked that be raised to $500. And Sharon had also asked Rob about it 2 months ago. And he said, just come to the borough meeting and put that before all of you. And she's been unable to come. So since I'm here,
Okay.
I just thought that I would put that on the table, that we are requesting a pay raise. You only pay 2 of our assistants, coaches. We actually have Coach Mike's daughter, Sammy, who is there helping, because we have so many swimmers. We have a lot of great swimmers. And we keep winning our little championship, so.
So maybe one day there'll be a Michael Phelps here.
Well, we had a Crafton Crocodile go to states in all 11 events last year. So there is a real.
It truly is a crocodile.
Yeah, it's a crocodile. I mean,
I don't know if it was the same swimmer.
So,
it's an amazing program that we run in the summer.
so I'm just gonna ask Alice. Alice
Sure.
has been involved in that.
Yeah.
So we pay, so that comes through the borough.
That
they
comes
pull-
through the borough, and I think that, I mean, I don't know if at this time we would be able to add the money for this year
Sure.
because of our budget has already been put into place.
Correct. And that was what I was told when I called and asked about it at the borough, because I had coaches asking what the payment was going to be. And I was told it was not, even though we did informally ask for it last year, it never somehow made it onto the agenda.
So this is your formal request.
So this is our formal request now, that we would love our assistant coaches to be paid 500 versus the 350.
They do work very
They
hard.
do work very hard.
Yeah, how many?
We have two, we have two.
So it's
Mike,
500 for the season?
yes. Mhm.
Per coach. But we have three.
Right, for two assistant coaches. So
Okay.
Coach Mike would not be getting a raise, just our two assistant coaches would get 500 versus 350.
We're
Okay.
talking about $300
Yeah.
more to make these people happier.
So,
We're just trying to, like, we lost a coach to CD this year, to Scott. Scott just did their big update,
okay.
And what is
and,
Scott offering?
well, we won't talk about more Scott.
Yeah, for
Um,
one more, actually.
A lot more, but yeah, so that's just my little bit line here, and to put that formally on the table to
Okay,
the
so,
council.
so since we have Charisma here,
Mhm.
Charisma, could you note for next year's wage resolution to
Increase this one
increase,
coach.
correct,
Thank you very
and
much.
then
Yeah.
and the assistant?
Yeah, just the
Just
assistants, the
assistants.
two
Just
assistants.
assistants.
Mhm. Coach Mike is very happy with how much money he makes, which is,
Okay, all right, so we'll note that, and
Okay.
then next year we'll,
talk about it.
you know, this fall, so this fall, we'll do our budget,
Sure.
and, all right,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
We're waiting until next year.
Yeah.
And we're not
Solicitor.
going to continue
One
on.
motion.
I mean, are we going to think about maybe this year?
So,
No,
No,
we
you
can't.
can't go back.
Okay. All right.
Can't do it.
They're not
You're
paid
off.
until the end of the season, from the, which is not until August.
They haven't been paid yet.
No,
No.
Well, you might be able to do it.
yeah, they're not
Okay,
paid,
they'll pay
we don't
by-
pay them until the season is actually over.
We're making decisions on Clearview at 500,000 that's not
Yeah.
in the budget, and we can't give them
Yeah.
$300 to,
I think we should.
So,
oh, are you kidding me?
all right, so we'll put it on the next agenda, have a motion to increase it.
All right.
So we can, so we're, okay, so we're okay to do that.
Yeah, I'll double check.
Okay.
We should be able to.
Yeah.
so,
great.
so the reason we're not doing it tonight is solicitor wants to double check that we can do it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a wage resolution. That's where you're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to amend the wage resolution, and that's
Ah,
not
okay.
present tonight. And then just to double check to make sure we're not tripping over some of the legal requirements about paying, back paying, et cetera, in the municipal world. There are issues
Okay.
with that.
All right.
Yep.
All right,
I believe our new business owner has a comment.
Will I be reached out to as far as when some of the, you know, like when everything goes in the paper or something like that, when it's posted? Is that something you can do, or should I keep an eye out, or?
Yeah, we can let you know.
Okay, because, yeah, you haven't.
I have your email and whatnot.
Yeah, because
So
I'm
we
just,
can,
yeah, just
let
like
you know.
obviously looking for timeframes as far as that why.
I mean, if we send it, if I send it to Post Gazette tomorrow or Wednesday, it'll be in by Friday or Saturday. So if you come in on Monday, I'll let you know if that's a problem, but you should plan to come in on Monday. I think Mr. Felton works on Monday, correct?
He's here on Wednesdays and Fridays, but he's actually on vacation Friday.
That's
So he
fine.
will not be here next week or Friday. He will be here Wednesday.
Okay, so
You'll be here
maybe
this Wednesday or next Wednesday?
This one.
you might
This
want to come in
Wednesday, and
Wednesday
then
and
not
start
at
the
all next
paperwork
week.
with him
Right.
and have Tina.
Because I can submit the paperwork whenever.
Yeah,
right?
and
And
then
it
you
would be
can,
the same paperwork that I put in, but it should be able to go through this time.
yes,
Okay.
and if Mr. Felton has questions, just have him call me. And we can hold it until the advertisement runs, which should be Friday.
Right.
And then
And there's
Mr.
a
Felton
time-
can process it before you leave.
And there's a time frame after that, as far as you had mentioned, like a 90-day possible thing for,
You're good to go, you can move forward. Remember, you're just putting yourself at risk in case, if council would choose not to adopt ordinance is drafted,
Yeah,
then, you know, whatever effort, money, time you put into it, if it doesn't pass, that's not a permitted use there, and then you're putting all that effort, time, money at risk,
right, okay.
so.
I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, sure thing.
Yes, I do. I can't get up, but
Okay, just say your
I
name.
just want to ask again for council to consider putting Sycamore on your paving list. We can't even drive down it. Sycamore now is only used for people on Fountain to turn their car on to be able to go back down Fountain to leave. Now, the whole where we turn around is like this and about this deep. But the reason I bring it up is because, I said this before, Rebecca, which is an alley, street that goes from Linwood down to Backbone, right before you get to the Legion, right at the stop sign, that's been paved. Nobody even uses that, except maybe Mr. Finley, and it's a one-way. You pave that, but Sycamore, people live on, well, there's one house left on Sycamore. But that's really the only way we can go from Fountain. We could add Chartiers and go. Otherwise, people that live in the middle of Fountain, they have to come down all the way to Sycamore, turn around, and go back up again. So I'm just asking you to just consider to put Fountain
So it
on.
is an asphalt road.
I'm sorry?
Is it asphalt road?
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was.
That's part of the Fountain and Sycamore project, we're trying to separation, yeah.
Okay, so it's,
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully if we're awarded the project, it will be addressed through that project.
well, I mean, right now, the way that it worked out is, a lot of the houses on Fountain, when we did the dye testing,
Mhm.
actually we're connecting into storm and into the sewer. So that's actually gonna help us and not spend a lot of money in redoing those two roads, because a lot of those houses are already separated. So what we're gonna do is coming down, you come down Fountain, you go down Sycamore, you're gonna have you'll be able to separate the storm and sewer right towards the end, right when you discharge out. So the actual amount of work that you have to do is a lot less than what we had anticipated before. You
Okay,
have to do a whole new storm separation all the way up, just do it down at the bottom here before the discharge.
so will the street repairs, can that be part of that program, or?
There's gonna be a little bit of work being done on Fountain with some of the French drains that's there. But down at the bottom, we're just gonna try to just throw a manhole in there, throw some pipe and throw the end wall at the end into the creek to separate the two.
So
there's very limited street work for that.
Okay, so curb wise, like wedge curves and
None of that was part of that.
would that help with that?
We'd have, I mean, I'd have to go take a look at it and see what we can do there.
Okay, could you
And
take
the
that?
paver not being fixed, paver's not even working right now.
The new one?
The new paver,
The new paper, we just acquired that.
that's not working?
According to, that's what you heard? Okay, well, we'll have to have,
Well,
yes. That was the whole point. Okay,
Well, thank you anyway.
thanks. Any other citizen comments? With that being said, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Yeltsin.